Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Our first story is titled, My Husband's Ex Spread Lies That Ruined My Reputation. My husband's ex-girlfriend decided to make it her mission to destroy my reputation and very nearly succeeded. I'm Joanna, and I've been married to my wonderful husband Jordan for 3 years now. We met at work. I'm a marketing executive, and he's in sales at the same company. There was an instant connection between us, and after dating for a year, we got engaged. It was a whirlwind romance, and I was blissfully happy. What I didn't know was that Jordan's ex-girlfriend, Destiny, was not so thrilled about our relationship. Jordan had dated Destiny for about a year before we met. From what he told me, things ended amicably when they realized they wanted different things. She was pushing for marriage and kids right away, while Jordan wasn't ready to settle down yet. They remained casual friends after the breakup, occasionally liking each other's social media posts or exchanging brief texts on birthdays. Jordan was always open with me about their past relationship and ongoing friendly acquaintanceship. I had no reason to be concerned or jealous, or so I thought. The trouble started about 6 months into our marriage. I began noticing whispers and strange looks from coworkers at the office. People who used to chat with me in the break room suddenly made excuses to leave when I walked in. I couldn't figure out what was going on. Then one day, my friend and coworker pulled me aside with a concerned look on her face. "Joanna, I need to talk to you about something," she said hesitantly. "There are some rumors going around the office about you. I wanted you to hear it from me first." My stomach dropped. "What kind of rumors?" I asked. She sighed. "People are saying that you seduced Jordan while he was still with his ex-girlfriend, that you're some kind of homewrecker who broke them up. I felt like I've been punched in the gut." "What?" "That's absolutely not true. Jordan and I didn't even meet until months after he and Destiny broke up. Who's spreading these lies?" "I'm not sure," she said, "but it seems to have started with some of the women in accounting. They're saying Destiny told them the whole story." I was reeling. Why would Destiny be telling people these blatant lies about me? I barely knew her. Jordan and I had run into her once at a work function shortly after we started dating, and she had seemed perfectly pleasant, if a bit reserved. I immediately went to Jordan and told him what was going on. He was just as shocked and confused as I was. "I have no idea why Destiny would say those things," he said. "Our breakup was totally mutual and drama-free, and she knows we didn't even meet until way after that. This doesn't make any sense." Jordan tried calling Destiny to confront her, but she didn't answer. He left a voicemail asking her to call him back urgently. Meanwhile, there were rumors at work were spreading like wildfire. I could feel people's eyes on me everywhere I went. The whispers followed me down hallways and into meetings. It was excruciating. I tried to address the gossip head-on, pulling aside one of the coworkers I was closest with to tell them the truth. But I could see the doubt in their eyes. The seed of suspicion had already been planted. A few days later, things got even worse. I was called into my boss's office for an unexpected meeting. As soon as I walked in and saw the HR rep sitting there, my heart started racing. "Joanna, please have a seat," my boss said gravely. "We need to discuss some concerning information that's been brought to our attention." I sat down, my palms sweating. "What's going on?" I asked, though I had a sinking feeling I already knew. The HR rep cleared her throat. "We've received multiple reports from employees about inappropriate workplace behavior on your part, specifically that you pursued a romantic relationship with a coworker who was in a committed relationship at the time, which led to the dissolution of that relationship." I felt like I was going to be sick. "That's completely false," I said. "I never pursued Jordan until months after he was single. We didn't even know each other when he was dating his ex. This is all based on malicious lies and rumors." My boss frowned. "We take these kinds of reports very seriously, Joanna. While we don't have any concrete evidence, the sheer volume of complaints we've received is concerning. We are going to need to conduct a formal investigation into the matter." I left that meeting in a daze. How had things spiraled out of control? A few lies from Destiny had snowballed into a full-blown HR investigation that could potentially cost me my job. When I got home that evening, Jordan was waiting for me with an update. He had finally spoken to Destiny on the phone. She admitted to spreading the rumors, he said, his face a mix of anger and bewilderment. But she wouldn't give me a straight answer about why. She just kept saying cryptic things like, "You'll see," and "what goes around comes around." I think she's completely lost it. I broke down in tears, overwhelmed by the stress and hurt of it all. Jordan held me and promised we'll figure it out together. Next few weeks were hellish. The HR investigation dragged on, with multiple people being interviewed about my alleged misconduct. I was placed on a temporary leave of absence during the process. Even though I knew I was innocent, the anxiety of potentially losing my job and professional reputation was almost unbearable. Outside of work, the rumors had spread to our social circle as well. Friends started canceling plans with flimsy excuses. I saw whispered conversations stop abruptly when I entered rooms at parties. It felt like my whole world was crumbling around me. I didn't understand how people could so readily believe these lies about me. I had always prided myself in being a person of integrity. The idea that others now saw me as some conniving homewrecker was devastating. Jordan was my rock through it all. He stood by me unwaveringly, defending me to anyone who would listen and comforting me through my darkest moments of self-doubt. "We know the truth," he would tell me. "That's what matters. We'll get through this together." As the investigation at work continued, we decided we needed to take action to clear my name. We hired a lawyer to help us explore our options. "Based on what you've told me, you have a strong case for defamation," our lawyer advised. "Destiny knowingly spread false information about you that has caused quantifiable damage to your reputation and career. I think we should consider filing a lawsuit." The idea of taking legal action was daunting, but I felt like I had no choice. I needed to fight back against these lies before they completely destroyed my life. We filed a defamation lawsuit against Destiny, seeking damages for the harm to my reputation and career. I hoped that taking this formal legal step would finally make people realize I was serious about my innocence. To our shock, Destiny's response to the lawsuit was to double down on her lies. She filed a countersuit, claiming that I had in fact pursued Jordan aggressively while they were still together, sending inappropriate texts and photos and showing up at their apartment unannounced. It was all complete fiction, but now it was part of the official legal record. The case dragged on for months. My leave of absence from work turned into a formal suspension as the company waited to see how the legal proceedings would play out. Jordan and I drained our savings paying for lawyer fees. The stress took a huge toll on our marriage. We were both irritable and on edge constantly. I fell into a deep depression, barely able to leave the house most days. The thought of running into people who believed the lies about me were paralyzing. I lost touch with many friends who had distanced themselves amid the scandal. Just when I thought things couldn't get any worse, they did. One day I was served with divorce papers, not from Jordan, but from his ex, Destiny. She was suing for alienation of affection, claiming that I had willfully interfered in her relationship with Jordan and caused its demise. I broke down sobbing when I saw the papers. How was this happening? How could someone I barely knew have this much power to destroy my life? Jordan was furious when he found out. He immediately called Destiny, despite our lawyer's advice not to have any direct contact with her. I could hear him shouting through the phone, "What the hell are you doing, Destiny? This has gone way too far. You know damn well Joanna and I didn't even meet until months after we broke up. Why are you doing this to us?" I couldn't make out Destiny's responses, but Jordan's face grew redder and redder as the call went on. Finally, he hung up and turned to me, looking shell-shocked. "I think I finally understand what this is all about," he said slowly. Destiny says she found out she was pregnant right after we broke up. She was going to tell me, but then she saw on social media that I had started dating you. She had an abortion without ever telling me. And now she blames us, for, quote, forcing, unquote, her into that decision. I felt like all the air had been sucked out of the room. This revelation cast everything in a new tragic light. Destiny's actions were still inexcusable, but now I could at least understand the pain and trauma driving them. "Oh my God," I whispered. "Jordan, I'm so sorry. That must be so hard to hear." He nodded, looking dazed. "I just can't believe she kept that from me all this time, and now she's trying to punish us for a choice she made on her own." We sat in stunned silence for a while, processing this new information. Finally, I spoke up. "I think we need to try talking to her again," I said. "Now that we know where all this is really coming from, maybe we can reach some kind of understanding. This has all gotten so out of hand." Jordan agreed, and we asked our lawyer to set up a mediation session with Destiny and her attorney. I was incredibly nervous as we walked into that meeting, unsure of what to expect. Destiny looked terrible. Dark circles under her eyes, hair unkempt. The anger and pain radiating off her was so palpable. But as we began to talk, with a mediator guiding the conversation, something shifted. For the first time, Destiny really listened as Jordan and I explained our side of the story, how we truly hadn't even met until months after their breakup, how blindsided and hurt we'd been by her actions. And we listened as she poured out all the grief and regret he'd been carrying about the abortion. The mediation session was emotionally draining, but it did lead to some resolution. Destiny agreed to publicly retract her false statements and drop her lawsuits against us. In return, we agreed to drop our defamation suit against her. While it wasn't a perfect solution, it felt like we could finally start to move forward. However, the damage to my reputation had already been done. Returning to work was incredibly uncomfortable, despite my boss and HR team apologizing for how they handled the situation. I could still feel the lingering effects of the rumors. Co-workers were overtly polite, almost walking on eggshells around me. The easy camaraderie I once enjoyed with my team was gone, replaced by an awkward tension that hung in the air. Socially, things were even tougher. Some friendships were irreparably damaged. People who had been quick to believe the worst about me now avoided eye contact when we crossed paths. Even those who apologized seemed to treat me differently, as if they were waiting for the other shoe to drop. The trust that had been broken wasn't easily repaired. Jordan and I threw ourselves into couples counseling, working through the strain this situation had put on our marriage. It wasn't always easy, but we were committed to coming out stronger. We spent long evenings talking through our fears, frustrations, and hopes for the future. One night, after a particularly intense therapy session, Jordan turned to me with a serious look on his face. "Joanna," he said, "I've been thinking maybe it's time for a fresh start for both of us." I felt a mix of excitement and anxiety at his words. "What do you mean?" I asked. He took a deep breath. "I think we should consider moving to a new city where nobody knows us or this story, where we can build a life without all this baggage hanging over us." The idea was both terrifying and exhilarating. Leave everything behind? Start over completely? But the more I thought about it, the more appealing it became. The chance to escape the whispers, the stares, the constant reminders of what we'd been through. It was tempting. "Where would we go?" I asked, my mind already racing the possibilities. Jordan smiled. "I've actually been looking into some options. There's a growing tech scene in Austin. I've seen some job postings that would be perfect for both of us. It's a big change, but I think it could be exactly what we need. Over the next few weeks, we researched, planned, and debated. We made pros and cons lists, looking at housing options and reached out to contacts in Austin. The more we explored the idea, the more right it felt. Finally, we made a decision. We are moving to Austin. Telling our families was hard. My parents were supportive but concerned, worried we were running away from our problems instead of facing them. Jordan's sister cried, upset that we'd be so far away, but we stood firm in our decision. This wasn't about running away. It was about giving ourselves the opportunity to heal and grow without the constant shadow of the past hanging over us. The next 2 months were a whirlwind of activity. We both secured new jobs in Austin, me with a promising startup, Jordan with a larger tech firm. We sold our house, packed up our lives, and said our goodbyes. The day we drove out of town, I felt a strange mix of emotions. Sadness at leaving the life we'd built, anxiety about the unknown ahead of us, but also an overwhelming sense of relief. As the familiar landmarks of our city faded into the rearview mirror, I felt like I could finally breathe freely again. Our new life in Austin got off to a promising start. We found a lovely apartment in a vibrant neighborhood full of young professionals and families. Our jobs were challenging but exciting, offering the fresh start we'd been craving. Slowly but surely, we began to build a new social circle, joining a local gym, attending community events, and getting to know our neighbors. But starting over wasn't as simple as just changing our address. The trauma of what we'd been through lingered. I found myself hesitant to open up to new friends, always worried that somehow our past would come to light and history would repeat itself. Jordan struggled too, sometimes growing quiet and withdrawn as he grappled with unresolved feelings about destiny and the baby they might have had. We continue with our therapy, now via video calls with our counselor back home. Slowly, we work through our issues. We learn to trust again, not just others, but ourselves. We practice being open and vulnerable with our new friends, sharing bits and pieces of our story when it felt right. 6 months into our new life, I had a breakthrough moment. I was at a work happy hour chatting with some colleagues when someone asked about my previous job. In the past, this kind of question would have filled me with dread, worried about what to say or how much to reveal. But this time, I found myself answering honestly and openly. I loved my old job, I said, but some personal issues made it necessary for us to relocate. It was a difficult time, but it led us here, and I'm grateful for that. To my surprise, my coworkers nodded sympathetically, and the conversation moved on. No prying questions, no judgmental looks, just acceptance. I realized then that I didn't have to be defined by what had happened to me. I could acknowledge it as part of my past without letting it control my present or future. Driving to my job the next day and the days after that, I felt a sense of peace I hadn't experienced in a long time. The wounds from our past were still there, like scars that would never fully fade, but they no longer defined us. Jordan and I had taken control of our narrative, written a new chapter for ourselves. Our life wasn't perfect. There were still moments of doubt, times when the weight of our experiences felt heavy, but we faced them together, stronger for what we've been through. We had built a new home, new careers, new friendships, and now we were ready to build a family. The lies that had once threatened to ruin my life had ultimately led me to a deeper understanding of myself, my resilience, and the strength of my relationship with Jordan. As we pulled into our apartment complex, I smiled at the thought of the future stretching out before us. It wasn't the life we had originally planned, but it was ours, and it was beautiful. Here are my thoughts about the story. Our girl Joanna, this woman's got nerves of steel, I swear. I mean, imagine having your whole life turned upside down because some chick decided to play make-believe with your husband's sperm. Like, what in the actual hell? I was sitting here reading this and I could feel my blood pressure rising. The audacity of destiny, man. I've seen some crazy X stories in my time, but this one is especially desperately deserving of the mental asylum holdings. And Jordan, bro, I gotta give it to him. He's stuck by Joanna like glue. In a world where relationships seem to crumble over the smallest things, this dude faced a Category 5 hurricane and said, "Nah, we're good." That's some real ride or die stuff right there. I see way too many stories, especially those I share on this channel, about husbands and wives that don't stick with their significant others and put another family member or, heaven forbid, their ex above them. Not Jordan though, thank the universe. But let's be real for a second. The part that really got me was how quickly people turned on Joanna. It's like 1 minute you're living your best life and the next you're the office pariah because of some BS rumors. It really makes you think, doesn't it? How well do we really know our friends, our coworkers? It's scary to think how quickly your support system can vanish based on nothing but gossip. No, that's not the right word. It's absolutely terrifying once you realize how quick people can change up. Now, I gotta admit, when they decided to move to Austin, I was a bit skeptical. I mean, running away from your problems, classic movie plot, right? But the more I read, the more I realized this wasn't about running away. It was about giving themselves space to heal without constantly reopening all wounds. And honestly, sometimes that's exactly what you need. Y'all, when Joanna talked about that moment at the work happy hour where she could finally talk about her past without freaking out, I felt that. It's those little victories that really show how far you've come. It's like one day you're drowning and the next you realize you've been treading water like a champ without even noticing. I'm glad both Joanna and Jordan are continuing to get the counseling they need. A lot of people think that getting therapy is about mentally ill and crazy, which I guess can be the case. But therapy is more than that. It's self-care. Taking care of yourself. Never be ashamed of taking care of yourself. But here's the thing that really stuck with me, and I want you guys to really think about this. How many of us could survive what Joanna and Jordan went through? The betrayal, the public humiliation, the loss of friends and reputation? It's easy to sit here and say, "Oh yeah, I totally handled that like a boss." But would we? Really? Some food for thought. And now, guys, we will move on to the second story of the video. Please like the video if you have enjoyed it so far. The story starts like this. My in-laws manipulated my spouse into leaving me. Sitting here alone in an empty house, surrounded by half-packed moving boxes, wondering where it all went wrong. That's exactly where I found myself reeling from the devastating end of my 8-year marriage. All thanks to my manipulative in-laws who wormed their way between me and my husband Trent, poisoning our relationship until there was nothing left to salvage. I'm Alice, and up until 6 months ago, I thought I had a pretty great life. Trent and I met in college and had been together ever since. He was my best friend, my partner in everything. We had our issues like any couple, but I really believe we were solid. We both had good jobs, had just bought our first home, and we're talking about starting a family soon. Looking back, I can see now the cracks started forming about a year ago when Trent's parents moved to our city after his dad retired. Don't get me wrong, I had always gotten along fine with my in-laws before. We weren't super close, but we were cordial. They lived a few hours away, so we'd see them every couple of months for family dinners or holidays. It was comfortable distance. But suddenly, they were just there all the time, dropping by unannounced, calling Trent constantly, inviting us over for dinner multiple times a week. At first, I tried to be understanding. They were in a new city and didn't know many people. It makes sense they want to spend time with their son. "Honey, don't you think your parents have been a little clingy lately?" I broached the subject gently one night after yet another marathon family dinner. Trent shrugged. "They're just excited to be close by. He'll settle down once they get more settled." But it didn't settle down. If anything, his parents became even more overbearing as time went on. Trent's mom started calling him at work several times a day for the most inane reasons. Trenty, I can't figure out how to work the TV remote. Can you come over and show me? Son, we're thinking of repainting the guest room. What color do you think we should choose? It got to the point where Trent was spending his entire lunch break on the phone with his mom most days. When I gently suggested that maybe he should set some boundaries, he got defensive. She's my mother, Alice. I can't just ignore her calls. She needs me. Things really started to go downhill when Trent's parents began inserting themselves into our marriage in more overt ways. They'd make little digs at me, usually when Trent wasn't in earshot. Oh, Alice, you're wearing that outfit again? I keep telling Trent he needs to take you shopping for some new clothes, his mom would say with a simpering smile. Or his dad would chime in, Trent mentioned you'd been working late a lot. I hope you're not neglecting your wifely duties at home. I need to brush off their comments at first, but they became more frequent and more pointed. They criticized my cooking, my housekeeping, even my appearance, always with a sickly sweet tone that made it hard to call them out directly. When I tried to talk to Trent about it, he'd accuse me of being too sensitive. They don't mean anything by it, Alice. That's just how they joke around. But it didn't feel like joking to me. It felt like a concentrated effort to undermine me and drive a wedge between Trent and I, and it was working. Trent started spending more and more time with his parents. He'd go over there after work to help with random projects around their house. Weekend plans with our friends would get canceled because his parents guilted him into coming over. I felt like I was losing my husband bit by bit. The manipulation became more blatant as time went on. Trent's mom would call him in tears, claiming she was having anxiety attacks and needed him to come over right away. This happened multiple times, always when Trent and I had plans together. I'm so sorry, honey, Trent would say, grabbing his keys. You know how mom gets. I have to go check on her. I'd later find out from Trent's sister that their mom was perfectly fine. She just wanted Trent's attention and knew exactly how to get it. Another time, Trent's dad guilted him into canceling our vacation plans at the last minute. We'd been saving for months for a trip to Hawaii, but 2 days before we were set to leave, Frank called Trent in a panic. Son, the basement is flooding. I need you to come help me fix it right away. It can't wait. Trent rushed over, only to find a small leak that could have easily been handled by a plumber. But his dad insisted they needed to tear up the whole basement to do it right. Our non-refundable trip was canceled, and Trent spent the entire week working on his parents' house instead. When I expressed my frustration, Trent accused me of being selfish. Family has to come first, Alice. You should understand that. The final straw came about 2 months ago. Trent and I had planned a weekend getaway to celebrate our anniversary. We both took Friday off work and were supposed to leave first thing in the morning for a romantic bed and breakfast a few hours away. But Thursday night, Trent dropped a bomb on me. Honey, I'm really sorry, but we're going to have to postpone our trip, he said, not quite meeting my eyes. My dad threw his back out and my mom needs help taking care of him this weekend. I was stunned. Are you serious? Trent, it's our anniversary. We've had this planned for months. Can't your sister help out instead? He shook his head. She's busy with the kids. Mom specifically asked for my help. I can't let them down. So instead, you're letting me down. I could feel angry tears welling up. Trent, don't you see what's happening here? Your parents are taking over our lives. But Trent just got angry. You're being selfish, Alice. Family comes first. We can celebrate our anniversary another time. I thought I was your family, I said quietly. Trent just walked away without responding. He left for his parents' house that night and stayed the whole weekend. I spent our anniversary alone, alternating between crying and seething with anger. When Trent finally came home Sunday night, things were tense between us. We had a huge fight where I laid out all my frustration about his parents' interference in our marriage. Trent accused me of being jealous and controlling. If you really love me, you'd want me to have a close relationship with my family, he said coldly. If you really love me, you'd set some boundaries with them. I fired back. We went to bed angry that night, and things were never really the same after that. Trent started spending more nights at his parents' house than at home. When he was home, he was distant and irritable. I felt like I was living with a stranger. The manipulation from his parents reached new heights. They started making up health scares to keep Trent close. His mom would call, voice shaking, saying she thought she felt a lump and needed Trent to take her to the doctor right away. Of course, it always turned out to be nothing. His dad started having mysterious chest pains that required Trent to drive him to the ER in the middle of the night. Miraculously, the pains would disappear as soon as they got to the hospital. Trent fell for it every time, rushing to their aid, and each time he'd come home more distant, more critical of me. It was like they were poisoning him against me in small doses. They started inviting Trent's high school ex-girlfriend to family events, always making a big show of how great she was doing and how she was still single. Can you believe it? They'd reminisce about what a perfect couple Trent and his ex had been right in front of me. When I tried to talk to Trent about how uncomfortable this made me, he accused me of being insecure. It's ancient history, Alice. Why are you so threatened by her? His parents started questioning every decision we made as a couple. They criticized our financial choices, our career moves, even the way we decorated our house. Nothing was off limits, and with each criticism, I could see Trent pulling further away from me and closer to them. I suggested marriage counseling, but Trent refused. He insisted there was nothing wrong with our relationship that couldn't be fixed if I would just stop being so difficult about his parents. About a month ago, I came home from work to find Trent packing a suitcase. "What's going on?" I asked, my heart racing. Trent wouldn't look at me. "I'm going to stay with my parents for a while. I need some space to think." "Think about what?" I could barely get the words out. He sighed heavily. "About us, about our future. I'm not sure this is working anymore, Alice." I felt like the floor had dropped out from under me. "You can't be serious, Trent. Please, let's talk about this. We can fix things." But he just shook his head. "There's nothing to fix. You've made it clear you don't support my relationship with my family. I can't be with someone who tries to come between me and my parents." I was speechless. How had he twisted things around so completely? I wasn't the one coming between anyone. His parents had systematically dismantled our marriage. But nothing I said could change his mind. Trent left that night, and I've barely heard from him since. Except through his lawyer, he filed for divorce 2 weeks ago. I was devastated, shell-shocked. How had my life fallen apart so completely in just a few months? I fell into a deep depression, barely able to get out of bed or go to work. My friends tried to rally around me, but I pushed them away. I couldn't bear to see the pity in their eyes. "I'm so sorry, Alice," my best friend said when I finally broke down and told her everything. "I can't believe Trent would do this to you. His parents sound like complete narcissists." I nodded numbly. "I just don't understand how he can't see what they're doing. It's like they've brainwashed him or something." Her eyes narrowed. "You know, my cousin went through something similar with her ex and his mom. Have you looked into parental alienation syndrome? It's usually talked about with kids, but it can happen in adult relationships too." I spent the next few days researching parental alienation and narcissistic in-laws. So much of what I read resonated with my situation. The love bombing in the beginning, the subtle put-downs and criticism, guilt trips and manipulation, driving a wedge between the couple. It was like reading a play-by-play of the last year of my marriage. I thought back to all the little ways Trent's parents had undermined our relationship, how they'd always find a way to interrupt our alone time, the constant phone calls and text messages when we were out together, the way they dismiss my opinions and elevate Trent's, even when we were in agreement. There was the time Trent got a big promotion at work, and instead of celebrating with me, his parents insisted on throwing him a party at their house. They invited all their friends and Trent's old high school buddies, effectively shutting me out of the celebration. When I tried to make a toast to Trent's success, his mom interrupted me and gave me her long, rambling speech about how she always knew her little boy would do great things. Or the Christmas when they gave Trent an expensive watch, making a big show of how much it cost and how they've been saving up for it. My gift to Trent, a thoughtful photo album I'd spent months putting together, was brushed aside and barely acknowledged. Every holiday, every milestone, every important moment in our lives, Trent's parents found a way to insert themselves and minimize my role in Trent's life. And I realized with a sinking heart that Trent had let them do it every single time. Armed with this new perspective, I decided to make one last attempt to reach Trent. I wrote him a long email laying out everything I'd learned about parental alienation and toxic in-law relationships. I poured my heart out, reminding him of all the good times we'd shared and begging him to at least consider couples counseling before throwing away our marriage. His response was swift and cruel. "Stop trying to blame my parents for your own shortcomings as a wife. They've done nothing but support us. I'm done with your paranoid delusions. My lawyer will be in touch to finalize the divorce." I was crushed. It was clear that Trent was too far under his parents' influence. There was no getting through to him. I had to accept that my marriage was truly over. The next few weeks passed in a blur of lawyers and paperwork. Trent wanted to sell our house and split the proceeds. I was in no emotional state to house hunt, so I agreed to move out and let him handle the sale, which is how I found myself surrounded by moving boxes about to leave the home we built together. As I taped up the last box, my phone buzzed with a text. It was from Trent's sister. We'd always gotten along well, but hadn't talked much since everything went down with Trent. Her message shocked me. "Alice, I'm so sorry for what my parents have done to you and Trent. I've tried talking to him, but he won't listen. I thought you should know. They've been planning this for a long time. They never thought you were good enough for Trent. They manipulated this whole situation to break you up. I have proof, old texts and emails. Let me know if you want to see them." My hand shook as I read her words. Part of me felt vindicated. I wasn't crazy. Trent's parents really had orchestrated this whole thing. But mostly I just felt sick. How could they be so cruel? How could Trent be so blind? I spent the next hour on the phone with his sister as she filled me in on all the things that had been happening behind the scenes. Apparently, his parents had never approved of me, thinking Trent could do better. When they moved to our city, it was with the express purpose of breaking us up so Trent could, quote unquote, start over. "They've got some crazy idea of Trent marrying his high school girlfriend," she explained. "They've been in touch with her and everything. It's completely insane." She went on to detail how her parents had systematically worked to undermine my relationship with Trent. They'd exaggerate or completely fabricate arguments Trent and I had, painting me as unreasonable and controlling. They'd coincidentally invite Trent's ex over whenever he was at their house, always talking her up and reminiscing about their relationship. They'd even gone so far as to start rumors in our social circle, subtly hinting that I might be cheating on Trent or that I was after his money. It was a calculated campaign to isolate Trent from me and everyone who might support our relationship. I felt like I was going to throw up. "Why are you telling me all this now?" I asked. She sighed heavily. "Because I can't stand by and watch them destroy Trent's life like this. He was happy with you, Alice. Anyone could see that. What they're doing is wrong, and I'm afraid Trent is going to wake up one day with huge regrets." We talked for a while longer, and she sent me screenshots of some damning conversations between her parents. It was all there in black and white, their plans to drive Trent and I apart, their manipulation and lies. I wasn't sure what to do with this new information. Part of me wanted to storm over to Trent's parents' house and confront them. Another part wanted to send all the evidence to Trent and force him to see the truth. But I knew neither of those options would really help. Trent had made his choice. He'd chosen his parents over our marriage. Nothing I could say or do now would change that. In the end, I decided to take the high road. I forwarded his sister's evidence to my lawyer to see if it could help me in the divorce proceedings. Then I wrote one final email to Trent. "I know now what your parents have done. I have proof of their manipulation. but I'm not going to try to convince you anymore. You've made your choice, and you'll have to live with it. I hope one day you'll realize the truth and find happiness. Goodbye, Trent." I hit send and blocked his number and email. It was time to close this chapter of my life for good. The next few months were hard, really hard. Some days I could barely get out of bed, crushed by the weight of everything I'd lost. But slowly, with the help of therapy and good friends, I started to heal. I threw myself into my work, earning a big promotion. I took a solo trip to Europe, something I'd always wanted to do, but Trent had never been interested in. I started volunteering at an animal shelter and even adopted a sweet rescue dog who quickly became my new best friend. Amazingly, karma came for Trent and his parents sooner than I ever expected. About 6 months after our divorce was finalized, I ran into a mutual friend who filled me in on the hot gossip. Apparently, the high school girlfriend Trent's parents wanted him to reconnect with turned out to be a gold digger who was only interested in the inheritance Trent stood to get one day. She cheated on him and tried to bleed him dry financially before Trent finally wised up and dumped her. The experience had opened Trent's eyes to his parents' manipulation. He'd had a huge falling out with them and moved across the country to get away from their influence. Last our friend had heard, Trent was in therapy and barely speaking to his parents. Part of me felt a sense of vindication hearing all this, but mostly I just felt sad for Trent. He'd thrown away a good marriage and years of his life because he couldn't stand up to his toxic parents. I hoped he'd be able to heal and build a better life for himself. As for me, I was finally starting to feel like myself again. The pain of everything that had happened would always be there, but it didn't define me anymore. I was building a new life on my own terms. I'd learned some hard lessons about setting boundaries and trusting my own instincts. I know now that I deserve a partner who will put our relationship first, who will stand with me as a united front against anyone who tries to come between us, even family. I'm not sure if I'll ever be ready to try marriage again, but I'm open to the possibility of finding love again one day. For now, I'm focused on my career, my friends, and my adorable rescue pup. I'm rediscovering who I am as an individual, and I'm actually excited about the future for the first time in a long time. Sometimes the most painful endings lead to the best new beginnings. My marriage may not have survived my in-laws' manipulation, but I survived. I'm stronger and wiser for having gone through this experience. And I'm finally free to live life on my own terms without toxic influences trying to control me. If there's one piece of advice I could give to others going through something similar, it's this. Trust your instincts. If something feels off in your relationship, speak up. Set firm boundaries with family members who try to interfere. And remember that a spouse should always put their marriage first. You deserve a true partner who will stand by your side, no matter what. It's been a long, painful journey, but I'm proud of how far I've come. My in-laws may have manipulated my spouse into leaving me, but they didn't break me. I'm rebuilding my life one day at a time, and I have hope that the best is yet to come. Here are my thoughts about the story. First off, can we talk about Trent's parents? Like, what kind of twisted, controlling freaks are these people? I swear, as I was reading this, I kept picturing them as those cartoon villains rubbing their hands together and cackling as they plotted to destroy their son's marriage. But the scary part is, people like this actually exist in real life. I gotta say, I was getting more and more frustrated with Trent as the story went on. Like, dude, how can you be so blind? Your wife is literally telling you that your parents are causing problems and you're just going to brush it off. I wanted to reach through my screen and shake some sense into him. The part that really got me was when Trent's parents started faking health scares to get his attention. That is some next level manipulation right there. I mean, who does that? It's like they're playing some sick game of emotional chess, always thinking 10 moves ahead about how to keep Trent under their thumb. And think about how insensitive it is too. What if one day they actually do get hurt or sick? What happens then? The boy who cried wolf? Anyone? And poor Alice, man, my heart just breaks for her. Imagine thinking you found your person, your partner for life, only to have them slowly pulled away from you by their own family. That's got to be one of the most helpless feelings in the world. You know what, though? I got to give Alice props for how she handled everything in the end. When she got all that fruit from Tent's sister about the parents' manipulation, she could have gone scorched earth. Lord knows I probably would have, but she took the high road, and I respect the hell out of that. I think what hits me hardest about this story is how believable it all is. Like, we've all dealt with difficult in-laws to some degree, right? Maybe they're a little nosy or they make passive-aggressive comments at family dinners, but this story shows how those little annoyances can snowball into something that destroys a marriage if left unchecked. It's got me thinking about my own relationships, to be honest. Am I setting good boundaries with my family? Am I sticking up for my partner when I need to? These are the kinds of questions we all need to ask ourselves if we want our relationships to stay healthy. I gotta say, though, that karma payback at the end was pretty satisfying. Trent finally seeing his parents for who they really are. Beautiful. Too late to save their relationship, but beautiful. Finally, although I can't help but feel a little bad for the guy. He made some massive mistakes, sure, but it sounds like he's been manipulated his whole life. That's got to take some serious therapy to unpack. As for Alice, I'm rooting for her all the way. Girl's been through hell, but she's coming out the other side stronger. That part about adopting a rescue dog, that's the kind of wholesome content I'm here for. Anyways, guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. Please like and subscribe, and I'll see you again tomorrow.